Joining me tonight on the day President Donald Trump takes over for his second term is former Ambassador to the United States of America, Taranjit Sandhu. Thank you very much for joining me, sir, this evening. You've been Ambassador to U.S. at least for 1 year when Trump regime in the previous term was there. And what do you think, from your point of view, is going to be the new regime all about, especially when looked at from the Indian lens?
So, Navika, I think there are three aspects about President Trump we need to remember. One, as you correctly said, he is not somebody new for us. He has very much known India. He has come to India in 2020. I remember we brought him in February of 2020. Very successful visit. Again, number two, that he's a businessman and he certainly looks out for cutting deals. And third, this time, he's coming with an experience. And that you can see already from the team he's assembling. He has been much more swifter and faster in putting that team together. So these three aspects, and especially the first one, that we know him very well, and do keep in mind that our relationship deepened in his time in any of the areas which we can discuss subsequently. So President Trump's coming certainly may hold something for somebody else, but for India, it's a positive development. And if I may add here, I think there is an angle in his unpredictability. So world over, they look at that and get concerned. But that unpredictability is part of his strategy. In fact, if you look at the recent agreement that has been signed in Middle East, where a part of important role was played by what he said and what statements he had made.
So you're talking obviously about the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Are we also looking forward to the war between Ukraine and Russia ending anytime soon? Are we going to see a quieter world out of the phase of wars that we've seen in the last few years? How are you looking at this from a global perspective?
So definitely there is going to be a lot of push by President Trump, and I think a lot has been already written on that. As I mentioned to you, that he certainly looks upon himself as a deal cutter. And the interesting part here will be that India could also be an important player in this, because our Prime Minister is one of the few who has a relationship with both President Putin and President Zelensky. So from what I have picked up, again, this is quite in the open, they are saying that one of the first pushes President Trump after taking over will be to connect with President Putin, and their meeting is expected soon. So the focus will be on getting this sorted out, because do keep in mind that the Russia-Ukraine issue has certainly heated up the world economy and the world security situation. And as if you just heard President Trump speaking a little while back, he very clearly spoke about avoiding a World War III. Now, of course, it didn't mean that the World War III is coming, but what he was trying to imply was that his focus will be in removing these irritants, and Ukraine and Russia will be one of the important foreign policy aspects.
Ambassador Sandhu, I also want to ask you, there is this nervousness on the trade front that Trump is somebody who thinks and treats India as a a very high tariff country. There are others from the Indian diaspora who are a little nervous because he's not too keen. America first is his policy, and jobs going to non-Americans is a little bit of a red flag. How do you see these issues, especially the Indian community, the Indian diaspora in the United States? Would they have something to worry about, number one? And number two, trade policies. Are we looking at a very, very stiff regime, a stiff treatment from the United States?
So, Navika, let me put it in perspective. See, the last election, which is 2024 presidential election, was contested on what we can call as domestic issues, but the economic was foremost in that, and the cost of living. And linked to that was also what is the security aspect, the domestic security, in which immigration, illegal immigration, deportations, etc. are also linked. Now, tariffs. Now, I'm not sitting on a judgment whether it's correct or not, but it is seen as a means of the balance of trade for United States, and also seen as a means by which the cost of living and the economy in the United States will do better. Again, I'm saying I'm not sitting on a judgment, but if we keep these in mind, then you will see that this is not India targeted. This is a broader issue. In fact, from what the Deputy Chief of Staff Policy, Stephen Miller, who's going to be a very important player, he has indicated today that in the first day itself, there are going to be 100 executive orders, and important part of those will be connected with immigration, with energy, in fact something which relates to us positively, that is on LNG and oil, and also on some of the other issues, including the US economy. So therefore, I'm only putting this in perspective that the relationship between the United States and India, which has strategic dimensions, which has economic dimensions, is far more important. And the trade issue will figure in, but do keep in mind that India is also a big time importer of LNG from the United States, which goes in billions of dollars. And that started during President Trump's time.
So let me ask you, when it comes to India, balancing relations with China, Russia, United States, do you think it will be an easy task, something that can be achieved in the manner India's been going about their work in the last 4 years? Or with Trump coming in, will some of these equations change? Because he's not somebody who believes too much in multilateralism as much as he believes in bilateral conversations. How do you see this?
So, Navika, there are certainly going to be challenges. In any relationship, there will be challenges. But here will also come the opportunities. Now, I'll explain on that. Now, you said multilateralism, that he will have some skepticism and perhaps some of the international bodies, he will not play a role. But look at the role he played in his last administration on Quad. In fact, he was one of the pushers of Quad. And you may not recall, but towards the end of his administration, he actually bestowed one of the highest civilian honors on Prime Minister Modi for his role in bilateral relations as well as in Quad. Now, where is the opportunity? I would argue that perhaps India could be that important player in bringing President Trump on the international platforms. But it's one of the countries with which the relationship has deepened, and it will continue to deepen. That this deepening did happen during President Trump's 45th when he was the 45th president of the United States.
So let me in the end ask you, most people imagine that the one word that describes President Donald Trump is unpredictability. Do you think this unpredictability will make India nervous, or do you think we are in a good enough position to navigate around it?
Look, I will say that we have handled that so-called unpredictability. And actually, the unpredictability of President Trump is a strategy, as I mentioned earlier. And just to answer on one aspect which you had raised about China, look, that's going to be a very interesting relationship. Again, it has domestic connotations in the United States. So to jump to a presumption will be very simplistic, because look at the statements made by the incoming Secretary of State to the US Congress. And in fact, he has been sponsored of important legislations which mention about India playing an important role. And here I would just like to mention that in June of 2020, when not many were willing to touch, when China had come on our borders, not by invite, at that time, the Secretary of State nominee met me and came out with a public statement saying that he stands with India, with the people of India, government of India, against the aggression by China. So there are going to be weights and counterweights. And I think that's the beauty of diplomacy. But I certainly see there are so many aspects which United States and India will be working together, that President Trump, who certainly has a good friendship with Prime Minister Modi, and he has spoken publicly about it, will certainly see India as a friend.
Well, clearly India and Indians looking forward to that, because there is a great deal of investment that Indians have made in this relationship with America. How it moves forward would be interesting to watch. How the ab ki baar Trump Sarkar, will they actually work in India's favor? Well, we'll wait and watch, and we'll keep coming back to you for more insights into this very, very interesting relationship as it unfolds. Thank you very much, Ambassador Sandhu, for joining me on Times Now. Many, many thanks.
Thank you, and it's always a pleasure. And as you said, just to add, we have 4 million Indian Americans, and we have right now 300,000 Indian students, 2/3 of them studying in STEM areas.
Absolutely. And the Indian diaspora at all the top places in America. Will that continue? Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed. Thank you very much, Ambassador Sandhu.
Thank you, Navika.